Good evening. My name is Trudy Leong, and this is the D Tycoon Show. I always host trade weeks with Bill Morton, and this is our final show for this month. And we are so fortunate to have with us Vincent Williams.
Yeah.
He is the director of the YWCA
Yes.
and the SBDC.
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct. Yeah.
And Bill and I met him at M-Hub during a screening of Boss, The Black Experience in Business.
Yes.
And you work with the black women in science and engineering, and you had a wonderful panel
Absolutely.
at M-Hub.
Yeah. It was a great opportunity to work with BWISE, stands for Black Women in Science and Engineering, and really showcase the importance of this film and how it works with technology and getting individuals known about the history of black businesses.
Could you describe for us your current work and the various positions you hold? You wear a lot of hats.
Yeah, absolutely. So my official title is Director of Business and Entrepreneurship with the YWCA of Metropolitan Chicago. And then the second hat that I wear with that is Director of the Small Business Development Center at the YWCA. And essentially, my role is to provide free one-on-one advising services to those looking to grow their business, start a business, dissolve a business, or even if they're just interested in finding additional resources around the Chicago area and even throughout the state to help them, become entrepreneurs and grow and scale.
What is the most common question that people come for advice?
Access to capital. That's really a major one. Finding out where they can obtain the money to start their business or even to scale and grow it. A lot of times, depending on the type of business that you're doing, they will maybe you'll need inventory. So you have to have access to capital in order to do that. And so I find that a lot of people come to me, looking for those types of resources and services.
Are there any venture capitalists that come to you hoping to offer opportunity to your wards?
Absolutely. I have a few of those in my arsenal.
How did you begin working as at the Illinois Small Business Development Center and being director at the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago?
Yeah, sure. That's actually a great story. So I actually sat on the board, the advisory board for the Small Business Development Center. And I've always done mentoring and counseling and advising services for small businesses for the past 10 years in the nonprofit world, either working with veterans or women-owned businesses and minority businesses. And so being on the board...
What did you start with? Which type of business did you start with?
It was actually it was all businesses. I just did a particular focus on minority and women and then disabled veterans, disabled and then the veterans as well. And after sitting on the board with the YWCA, the opportunity came up to be the director of it. And it just made perfect sense since I was there.
How long were you on the board before they asked you, please be our director?
Yeah, it was a year.
Do you know what you did that so impressed them that they decided to hire you?
I think that it's that charisma that you have when you're able to share as much information as well as your network, and those two factors I think really help today in gaining jobs and getting a good position in the marketplace.
Is it because you also mentored people too? How have you mentored people, and how have your mentees applied your advice?
Yeah, well, I don't know if all advice is good advice, right? Is what I always tell some of my mentees. But yeah, I think that definitely plays a large factor in how well you're received with others. And mentoring for me helps me to gain additional experiences and apply them when I have it. So a lot of times I'm the mentee. And they're the mentor. You want to learn from them. It's not just, with some of the businesses that I advise. And so...
Could you give us an example about what you learned from a mentee? That's very interesting.
Absolutely. I think... So right now I have a mentee, of course, that's a millennial, if you will. And so I'm really learning to communicate more via technology. How's that? Whereas in the past, you take the time to meet, grab lunch, grab some coffee, and to catch up on each other's lives and maybe things that you can help one another with. Well, the mentee that I have now is really, let's text about it. I will talk to you later with it. And it's a whole new introduction for me as far as communicating and providing advice, because it's all strictly through the cell phone.
Well, soft skills are very important no matter what you do. Are you
I
able
agree.
to apply soft skills in technology? Let's say texting. Could the two go hand in hand?
Oh, absolutely. I think I've actually been using the word, changing it from soft skills to being success skills now. And so that's meaning when you do talk via text or technology, to make sure that you're using full sentences. Don't shorten them. Don't try to use the emojis or anything there. I think it's really important to keep that professional image, depending on who it is that you're having a conversation with. If it's with one of your good friends or a family member, then maybe you can shorten that. But when you have that type of business relationship, you want to make sure that you keep it very professional in business. Yeah.
That makes it, both sides feel more comfortable too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How did you help your friend Kimberly Moore that helped her extend beyond her ample capabilities? Because I listened to you describing her, that you've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And give us a story
Oh,
about it.
wow. Kimberly Moore is an outstanding individual. And it's really been about connecting both of our networks together and really being able to see where we can leverage one another's skills. And I say those are success skills. I find that she's very passionate about the work she does at her organization. And so when I see that in someone, I really want to tap into that and see if I can help to sustain it, to grow, and maybe even feed off of that energy. And I think that's one of the good things that we do together is we really, hey, there's someone I really think you should meet. And it would,
Could you give us,
Yeah.
give the audience a little bit about what Kimberly's skills are and what your skills are, so that they could understand how the two skill sets mesh?
Yeah, sure. So Kimberly is very good at engineering. She is one of the few African American engineering organizations here in the city of Chicago that has secured some really great properties or tasks and projects. And so when you're dealing with them on that level, I find that it makes sense for us to collaborate, because you never know where you can find additional partners or subcontractors to work with that. And so she'll reach out to me and we will collaborate on different ways that, we can get someone in there to finish the project that would, we know can work together and on that level. So I think that's kind of how we feed off of one another and collaborate together to make sure that we're both successful in everything that we do and the referrals that we provide out.
Does Kimberly work more with women than with men, or would you say with
No, I would say it's equal around. I don't think she makes a point to, I don't want to speak for her there, but yeah, I don't think she makes a point to go towards that. But it's obvious, and I think today it's important to be recognized as a woman-owned business. And so a lot of times you will have those that will position it to their advantage, especially if it's a case where you're working with, procurement or government contracts that are looking for underrepresented organizations, and a woman-based organization would be that.
What was the turning point in your career that led to the most success?
Oh, wow. The turning point in my career was I actually went back to school to receive my MBA in finance 20 years after my undergrad.
So
And
what made you decide to return to school?
yeah, well, I found that as a manager and going into middle-level management, it was really going great. I just wanted to have that second degree to separate me from everyone else in some of the positions that I was applying for. And
So you decided on finance.
exactly, yeah. And after receiving that degree, I think it really it gave me the confidence that I needed to continue to go towards the right positions that I want. and it's led to where I am today with being an advisor for small businesses and helping the community and building the network as well as sharing films like Boss, The Black Experience in Business.
In finance, do you apply that in investments, or do you apply that in helping business entrepreneurs get financing?
Yeah, it's a combination. You want to know the language, if you will, if you're going to make some recommendations on it. And so I will look over business plans for a lot of the clients that I serve, as well as look at some options if they're looking to buy or purchase a franchise or another business there. I don't get into too much detail with the finances because I think that's what an accountant's for. So I do have referrals and a lot of accountants that I work with that. But I also want to be able to, knowledgeably talk about what information I'm sharing with them on access to capital and things like that. So that's where the degree in finance has helped me. Yeah.
You are also a very well-known keynote speaker and presenter. So how did you come to excel in that?
Oh, wow. So growing up, I've always participated in debate or public speaking contests and things like that. And so it's prepared me, I think, for, later in life. And I've just never had a problem with being in front of an audience and talking or speaking.
There must have been some point in your life when you were shy.
There was,
How did you overcome it?
Contacts. And the braces are off now. Whereas before, I just felt like I was hiding behind the joys of being a teenager. Acne, I had hair then. And so I've used it to my advantage because I was very comfortable speaking in front of an audience. And as I grew older, my voice got deeper. My stature got a lot taller. It just became kind of a natural fit for me to give keynote presentations and speaking engagements. And one of my most rewarding ones was I recently was the keynote for a local college graduation. And yeah, it was just phenomenal to be able to motivate them and provide just the right amount of, things that don't put them to sleep, because I realized I was the one standing between them receiving their actual diploma. So it's great.
How do you, what advice would you give people to be a presenter, to connect with the audience? There must be some secret to your success that could help our audience.
I think that it's always important to really be yourself, relax, of course. There's a few tricks that I think some of the most famous speakers will tell you. Imagine that your audience is out there and that they all have balloon animals on their head or something like that, And so as you look at, you're looking at these different types of balloon animals, and that's one of the things that kind of keeps you going. So little tricks like that, I think, can help you to do it. But you have to also have the desire to want to be in front of that audience.
That means you have a story and you want to get it across to the audience?
Exactly. Sometimes, as far as being on a panel, you can be asked questions. And so I think that's a way of kind of relaxing yourself to get you comfortable enough to stand up there and be a keynote, where others really they don't mind being behind the scenes, and maybe even just answering the questions in a newspaper article or something there, or some other type of media outlet, but not particularly in front of an audience there.
Have you ever been behind the scenes? Did you ever do any work behind the scenes?
Absolutely, yeah.
So did you have a role in the production of or in the promotion of Boss, the Black Experience in Business?
Absolutely. So I'm doing a ton of promotions for it. Nothing on the production side of it, although I think after meeting the producer and the director, Stanley Nelson, it was pretty phenomenal that this film needs to get into the community, and that's where the promotion standards come in. And so I reached out to WTTW and said, hey, I'd love to be able to share this with others in the community, and it's been great.
So you approached WTTW?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And did it take much for them to agree?
Not at all. I think, in shows and similar to the audience that you have here today, when you have a film that really raises the consciousness level and provides a different narrative, it's important to get it in front of as many people as possible, and that's what I'm hoping to do.
I don't watch much television, but I made it a point to finish the entire episode, even though it took me a couple of sittings, but it was a very, very important program.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Can you share with us an instance of discrimination against you and how you dealt with the situation? Because that was the main gist of the program, how to overcome the discrimination.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I think I don't want to say that I live in a bubble or that I'm oblivious to some of the things that happen around. Of course, as an African American male, I've been racially profiled and things like that. But what I've found today is that there's just these small microaggressions that I run into. And a perfect example would be I was going to a meeting, and I get on the elevator, and I don't know if you see the elevators today, and they have the mirrored doors, so you're able to look in the mirror, and I usually check and see if my teeth are something in my teeth, or how's my hair today, or something like that. And as I get on the elevator, there was a woman that was already on the elevator, and she was a person of non-color, and she immediately clutches her purse and pulls it in tighter to her. And that, for me, was just that immediate sense of all she saw was the color of my skin. What was a deciding factor for me was how I would react to that. And so I could either get immediately hostile or I could just, say something about it. And I chose to just, shake my head silently to myself, turn around and kept going about my day, because I felt that was a problem. That was something that she had to deal with, not something I had to deal with. But it was, again, just that reminder that that's all she saw. She doesn't know my socioeconomic background. She doesn't know my education. And so for her to immediately judge me like I was going to do something harmful to her, was just, it was one of those things.
And she doesn't have any idea about how many people you have helped already.
Exactly. I also thought a little bit about, who knows? In hindsight, maybe something happened to her on the way into work, and the person maybe looked similar to me or something like that. So there's a lot of factors, but again, I think it's really about how you react to it. And I hope that, she was able to learn from it too, because I did, obviously shake my head like that really was not a good thing to do, because you really showcase that microaggression right there, or that unconscious bias, if you will.
Which leads us to my next question.
Yeah.
How does microaggression affect bridging the divide caused by discrimination against African Americans?
Wow, that's a powerful question. I think that microaggressions really hinder the advancement of African Americans, particularly persons of color. Only because, they're the things that I think stop almost anyone, too, for that matter.
Let's first define microaggression to the audience. I think maybe there's many people that really do not know what microaggression is.
Sure. I'm not exactly sure of the true Webster definition of microaggression, but for me it means one of the a feeling that you have, or a preconceived notion that you have, that you will use against in a derogatory manner. And so it can be, for example, someone calling you boy, or someone calling you archaic. Just these are small little epithets, if you will, that are said to deminimize a person and really make them, and it could be unintentional, but it is said and used that it's negative.
Okay, so how can we bridge the divide?
Yeah. And I think it's
microaggression causes.
the best way to bridge it would be to uncover if you have a microaggression or these unconscious biases that you may have, and address them and say, for example, I will never use that word again. Or and then as you think about the way that you react in situations and environments, and realize that there's going to be a large, diverse environment going forward, and make sure that you don't use that, is really what's going to bridge the gap going forward. Making sure that you're not that you're being inclusive and everyone has a seat at the table, but you're making sure that you yourself are not the one using the microaggression or the bias.
It has to start somewhere, and why not start with yourself?
Absolutely.
Ourselves, right?
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great way of putting it, Trudy.
How do reparations figure into improving relations between African Americans and whites?
Wow. I think there's such a history of unfair treatment between the African American race and the Caucasian race here in America, that it really is critical for reparations for descendants of slaves to happen in some manner. I'm not well versed on what that should look like. I remember back, and just from my history lessons, that Lincoln had promised, 40 acres and a mule as reparations for some of the things. But when you think of the countless number of hours and centuries that, African Americans spent with free labor, how do you put a dollar amount to that? Can you put a dollar amount to that, when you think of that? And so the only way that I think going forward as Americans we can really change the conversations and the narratives is to at least acknowledge that, of course, that it's happened, and in some way, either a tax incentive or something that happens, to say that, we apologize, but we've learned from this mistake, and now let's move forward with it. So I think that would be kind of a way to make sure that reparations are being handled, if you will.
Has the black business community discussed reparations? Would reparations improve race relations, do you think, and the business climate for African Americans? If so, how?
I'm not quite sure that in the business community, I don't want to speak for them as a whole. I know in some of the conversations that I had, it really would help if the microaggressions and the unconscious biases would go away, especially when it comes to access to capital, which I explained was one of the really pain points that I received from a lot of businesses. And so this could mean that, as an African American or a person of color, and you walk into any of the financial institutions to secure a loan to run your business or operate your business, and you don't receive that because there's something there in that language that's strictly prohibiting you based off of your color. That's where, the reparations, I think, can be, if we can eliminate that completely from being a factor, and it's based off of the business idea, that, what you're bringing to the community and how you're gonna, how your business can take off. Not every business succeeds, but everyone should have that opportunity to succeed. And I think that's where, in the African American business community, we'd love to be able to have just that same access to capital and resources. And that's what I hope that I'm doing by showcasing the film and providing the one-on-one advising services to some of the things that are available.
How deep is the divide between access to capital between Caucasians and African Americans?
Let's say it's pretty wide. Yeah.
What, if any, is African American businesses' position on relations between the police and African Americans?
Wow. There's a love-hate relationship there, I think, and that's only because of the racial profiling that some businesses may have received. Also, I think some black businesses and businesses of color can attest to that the police department may not respond to an event or a theft or something that's happened in their neighborhood as quickly as they may in, say, the financial district of downtown Chicago. And those are just the inequities that you see across the board. That's where it becomes important for businesses to work together with the police departments, with their aldermen, with a lot of the people in the area and the community to make sure that the community itself is speaking about how they want to be seen, they want to be heard, and if there is crime, that the police department is there behind them, that they're all working together.
Would you say that the relations between black business and the police has improved, or is it how has it improved if it has?
I think that going forward, there are a lot of businesses that depending on the relationship that they have with the police department, it's definitely improving. But that individual businesses, just as you and I may have a great working relationship, it would be that same way with businesses. Now, if you have a business that's constantly breaking the law or are serving, maybe alcohol or things to underage kids, then they're going to have a different relationship with the police department, or making noise in the community. So it really depends on the type of business and what they're doing and the relationship that they have. I think today, if you have a lot of internet-based businesses, they don't have, it's not a brick and mortar store, so they would not have to deal with, the armed services in that aspect as much.
Do you know of any city that has a good relationship with the black business, and it would be a model for other cities to follow?
Wow. I think that a lot of major metropolitan cities are doing great in that aspect because you will have, but keep in mind that there are a lot of businesses, and I'm hoping with this 2020 census that's coming out and it being electronic, that we will have a lot of businesses that will let us know that they are black owned or persons of color. That's been one of I think the big things that's happening is that who is the owner of that business in the community.
Well, I remember Mr. Johnson had to hide his identity in order to...
Absolutely. In the film, yeah.
Yes.
Wasn't that something?
Yes.
Very powerful.
Do you think that that might be still happening now?
I do. I absolutely do. And it's terrible that would have to happen.
How widespread? Is it across the U.S. or in some cities, would you say?
I think it's across the U.S. Yeah. I think we still have a long way to go when it comes to either wanting to do business with others and if that knowledge will be shared going across for those to sustain.
What is the next phase of your career?
Oh, wow. I would love to continue with the community service and the advising that I do for small businesses, in addition to being the CEO of a major company in the next 5 years.
What kind of company do you feel you'll be most qualified at being a CEO?
That makes a lot of money.
Well, good luck to you. I hope
Thank
you
you
have
very
much
much.
success, Vincent Williams.
I appreciate it, Trudy. Thank you.
This has been the D Tycoon Show, and thank you so much, Catherine D Tycoon, for allowing Bill Morton and I to host this show. We really appreciate all your work in helping bring the voice of community advocates and politicians who want to affect change in our community to the forefront. And then this is the Rogers Park Chamber of Commerce Job Fair, which is held every month in Rogers Park, but it is open to Rogers Park and beyond. For more information, please email us at info@rogerspark.cc. Again, thank you so much, Catherine B. Tycoon, for allowing Bill Morton and I to host the show. We really, really appreciate all your work for the community. And thank you again, Vincent Williams, for joining us on our last show.
Thank you so much. Good luck to you.